Hi, my name is Ned Mueller, and I want you to welcome you to my studio. Today I'm going to talk about studies, value studies and color studies, preliminary work that helps us get to more of a successful painting, solving a lot of problems before we get into the final painting, uh, doing value studies, uh, maybe two or three, working. The whole idea is to work out design and to make a more compelling and interesting painting. And my idea of a definition of a good painting would be an interesting arrangements of shapes and colors and edges. So to get that, we could dive into a big painting and hope it works out. But there's other ways that we can lessen the chance of failure or making more mistakes is by doing smaller value color studies. I like to tell my students that the old masters worked in black and white for 4 years. It's 4 long years. When I was in art school, it was 2 years. And our first color assignment was three white eggs on a light blue plate. But as an illustrator, I got in the habit of doing value or color studies to send to the art director to make sure we were all on the same page, that he liked the direction I'm going with, that he could see a little study and give me suggestions or ideas of whether to make something bigger, smaller, change the color, all that to save us both a lot of agony later. And getting into fine arts, it was still the same thing. I could save a lot of trouble by working things out, design-wise or composition-wise, all of that. And through all my teaching, and in my own work and other students' work, I'm pretty much convinced that most paintings are ruined at the start because we haven't planned or we haven't thought out about our design or about our color motif and all of that. And just little color studies can save us a lot of trouble and lead to a lot more successful paintings. So here is a value study, a pretty typical value study for, say, a landscape. I just have a darkest dark and the lightest light. Darkest dark, not quite black. Lightest light, not quite white. And two or three values in between, at least to get the composition down. Our idea is to move a bush to the right or left to make it larger, make the bush smaller, make it darker, lighter, as with any other elements. And to get this down on a panel or a piece of paper or cardboard, to get these down to see how it's going to look. Remember, as far as design composition goes, value does all the work, color gets all the credit. Because as soon as we get into color, value is usually the first thing that we miss on getting into color. So this is a pretty good example. And another thing I might mention, pretty good design for the most part will look good sideways, upside down, or however you look at it. Here's more of a classical kind of scene with mountains, trees, river, and the same thing, using maybe 4 values at the most. And as a general rule, a larger, darker area over on one side will be balanced by a smaller area. For the most part, balance in art is unbalanced. You don't want equals. So if you can look up here, here's the actual photo. It was some great old boats in Cot Bay Harbor in North Vietnam. This was the value study. You can see the changes I made. I cropped it down and I made these boats that were just a little bit bigger and pulled that boat down in here because I felt that space. It could use something there. but this is, you know, experimental, trying something different. And then here is the color study I did. And you can see I added a figure in the lower right and a figure in the back of the boat. Added little spots of color which I felt would have to help the composition. There again, a big large shape on the right balanced by a little dark reflection of the boat in the lower left. This next one, there's another boat one. Don't always want to paint the front of boats, so there's a nice composition, arrangements of darks and lights, interesting positive and negative shapes. And this was the value study I did. I changed the boats back here a little bit from another photo that I had. But there again, I got something down, looking at positive, negative shapes, darks and lights, moving those around. And then this was the color study. I think you can, if I'm moving that too fast. So those are two that you could see. Here's another one from a pack trip we took up in the Sierras. And we were on a lunch break, and I took photos of the horses, a great shadow shape, and did a rough little Conti drawing there. And then here was the color study. Kept it a little more high-keyed, so the horses weren't looking like they were pasted on or just a black blob. And then I could make changes. I could make things more lighter, more darker, brighter, duller, softer, sharper edges. The same over here. This is a little more complicated, but I had this great reference photo. It was the basic of this. And then I had these where I could add and subtract. I could use whatever I wanted out of this group here and this group. And then I did a little value study down here, and this was the color study. So particularly something complicated like this, you pretty much have to do some preliminary work just to work it out, to get the satisfaction of a result. Here's one I just had these great photos recently from an old trip to Mexico, and used this for the basis of it. And I wanted to have something going on here, a little extra candy, so I had these fellows with boats back there. I just love this arrangements of these darks and lights and these kids and these two women there. And then I went right into more of a color study. The other thing I might mention, it's helpful to have, some good material to work from. Sorry for the interruption, but these are, you can go to Mexico or India, you could get a great picture like that. These are Tarahumara Indians in northern Mexico. Scenes like that. Not everybody can go there. And I went there when I was younger because it was cheap and affordable. Look at that great little girl with a drum from India and this lady from China. So you don't necessarily have to go to India, China, Guatemala. You can go right your own restaurant downtown or down the street. Find some interesting people to do. People are out painting with you. You take pictures of them. They can make some great paintings. Try not to think about, the figure stuff. Try to look at it as arrangements of shapes, values, and colors, and edges. So you look at that. Could make a nice painting. A fellow outside painting in Ireland, or just a scene at an arboretum in downtown Seattle. Look, there's paintings all over if you start thinking of values, shapes, colors, and edges. And then you'll start seeing more paintings all over. And then you can do your little value studies, color studies, and they are studies. They're for your own use, to get something down and make changes, whatever you think can make it better. So I hope you enjoyed this little sequence. I may have gone on a little bit too long, but thanks again, and best of luck to you in your painting.